the dates should all come back 0 because radiometric methods can't measure 200 years. That's too tiny. And then another one in Hawaii. The eruption was in 1800, and look at the range of dates, even up into the billions of years. Something wrong with these methods. Here's another example. In Grand Canyon, you have two major lava flows in Grand Canyon. You have the Cardenas basalts down here at the bottom, and then you have these lava flows that poured over the side of the canyon. Now, clearly, from the physical evidence, these rocks are older than these rocks because these rocks were formed. Then there was an erosional event which leveled that off. Then all of these sediments were deposited. Then something happened to erode this huge canyon, and then the volcanoes erupted and spilled their lava over the edge. All right? That's clear. Now, the evolutionists say that this pile right here represents 300 million years of time. So if we apply the radiometric dating methods and they really work, these rocks should be at least 300 million years older than these rocks, right? These had to form after those. You don't put the syrup on the pancakes before you put the pancakes on the plate. You put the pancakes down first, and then you put the syrup on. All right? But Dr. Steve Austin took samples, sent them off to the radiometric dating labs, and the results were from 13 different dates that they applied different methods. Here's the range of dates, huge spread of range of years. With rubidium-strontium isochron method, they got a date of 1,000 million years, 1.7 billion years. So these rocks should be at least 300 million years less than that. So at least 770 million years, maybe less than that. When the dates came back, they were over almost 300 million years older than the ones down here. It's impossible. They have to be younger. And then just recently, Dr. Andrew Snelling, a PhD geologist, did samples, 27 samples of these igneous rocks down here in the bottom part of the Grand Canyon. And they found, even with closely spaced samples that were only 0.8 of a meter apart, a little more than 2 feet apart, in the same lava flow, they got ages ranging from 1,200 million years to 2,500 million years. Something wrong with these dates. So, when we have rocks of known age, whether we have the absolute age when they actually erupted, or the relative age that we can see, well, by the physical evidence, these rocks here have to be older than these rocks up here. When we apply the dating methods, they don't work. But the evolutionists want us to believe that when we're dating rocks of unknown age, where we didn't have any eyewitnesses there to observe when the volcano erupted, they want us to assume that they do work. That's not logical. If they don't work when we can verify them, why should we trust them when we can't verify them? Here's some really exciting evidence that just occurred in the past year. And it relates to carbon-14 dating, which we haven't talked about. Now, there are several places in the geological record. This is how the evolutionists imagine the rocks of the Earth as we go down through the Earth. You need to know that this doesn't actually exist anywhere except in textbooks. You can't drill down into the Earth and find this nice progression of fossils. There is a general order, but it's not nearly as neat and tidy as this. But there are several places in this geological formation where we find massive coal deposits. And one is in the Eocene, which is dated at 36 to 57 million years. One is in the Cretaceous, which is dated at 66 to 144 million years ago. And one is in the Pennsylvanian, dated 286 to 320 million years ago. Now, carbon-14 is dating when the plant or animal died. That's what it's telling us. Now, evolutionists have never tried to date coal. Coal is made from plant material. And the reason they've never tried to date it is because it's millions of years old. There would be no carbon-14 left in the coal. So it's a waste of money to even do the research. There wouldn't be any there. It'd be a matter of tens of thousands of years and all the carbon-14 would be gone. So they've never tried. Well, creationists believe that there may well be be some there. And so they got samples from these three coal samples. Look at their different ages, but when they did the radiometric dating with carbon-14, they found that all of the samples are essentially the same age and only about 70,000 years in the amount of carbon-14. That's a maximum date. There's something seriously wrong here. And what's wrong is the assumptions that are being used in the method. They're assuming a constant decay rate. And there's strong evidence that that decay rate is not good. Now, let's look at one last example. Diamond is the hardest substance known to man, and scientists believe has formed deep in the earth under high temperatures and pressures. And they believe it's anywhere from 570 to 4,500 million years, 4.5 billion. Well, Dr. John Baumgartner decided, well, the carbon-14 applied to coal gave us some unexpected results. I wonder what would happen if we tried to use carbon-14 on diamond. There should be, if those diamonds are really millions and millions of years old, there should be no carbon-14 in the diamond. Well, he's taken 5 samples and dated them with carbon-14, and they come out to dates of less than 58,000 years. Incredible. This has just been published in the last year. Incredible research. So what's the problem with all these dating methods? The problem is the assumptions in the methods. The problem is not our technology. We've got mass spectrometers that can count the individual uranium and lead atoms or carbon and nitrogen atoms. The technology is superb. The problem is in the assumptions. You got the daughter and the parent isotope. There are 3 main assumptions in this method. First, what was the original ratio? If when the rock formed, when it crystallized, it had only uranium, so 100% uranium, and no lead, we get a very different date than if when the rock formed, it was 51% uranium and 49% lead. If we assume 100%, 0%, we're going to get a much greater age than the actual age. Another assumption is the rate of decay. I've already indicated. The evolutionists assume that in this illustration, the sand has always been falling down at the same rate. The radioactive isotopes have always been decaying at the same rate that we observe today. But we've only been observing them for a fraction of the supposed time that they've been decaying. And creation scientists have believed for several years that there's strong evidence that those decay rates have not been constant. And just in this last year or two, they've uncovered some very powerful evidence that they were much, much faster in the past, at the time of the flood, and maybe at the time of creation. And that would accelerate all of those decay processes, which would bring those years from millions and billions down to thousands. And then the last assumption is, has any of the parent or daughter isotope moved in or out of the rock after it crystallized? If you got leaks in the system and you don't know that, you're going to get erroneous dates for when the system was formed. So we are constantly bombarded in the news and in our textbooks and movies that the fossil and geological record represents millions and millions of years. But it doesn't really. What it represents is the record of Noah's flood, and that this is a young earth after all. And the reason that people don't see the evidence is, as a very famous British historian of science said about the 19th century, then as now, men often perceive what they expect and overlook what they do not wish to see. And see, people don't want to see evidence of a global flood, because what does a global flood speak of? It speaks of the wrath of God. And people who do not want to submit to the holy demands of their Creator are going to think of every way possible to explain away the evidence, so that they do not have to be morally accountable to their Creator. So, what we are trying to help people understand is that if you start with biblical assumptions and you go and look at the facts, whether they're the facts from outer space or the earth or living or fossilized creatures, if you start with those biblical assumptions, you will come to a correct interpretation and understanding of reality. So the earth really is confirming what the Bible says.